to a Shift County video. It's been a while since we've done one of these, and while there hasn't been too much to report, I haven't really done too much. A little bit of preventative maintenance and the likes, but that's largely it. There's still loads to go on my fleet of vehicles. Today I'm going to be touching on a couple of little modifications, but we're not going to be doing it on the NA8, which you're so accustomed to see on the channel. We're going to be doing it on the NB2. Those of you that know the channel well, or my accounts well, will know that I have several vehicles and two of them are MX-5s. There is the 96 NA8, which you have seen to death, Ronin, and then we have Flux, a 2004 NB2. I need to give you a little bit of backstory for you to understand why what I'm going to do today is actually so profound. My journey into MX-5 ownership, genuine ownership, actually started with the ND model. I test drove that and fell in love with it. And I really wanted one, but I couldn't justify spending that sort of money every month only to have the vehicle sit in my garage or sit in the basement at work while I test drive other vehicles. So I set about looking for an NB2 that I could use on the weekends. South Africa only got the NB2s, we never got the NB1. And I found that it was the ideal blend of analog driving experience and creature comforts. Aircon, power steering, leather upholstery, and I'd be able to live with it. I do like the FD bodywork styling, or the styling cues that have been carried out on the NB, and I wasn't overly fond of the interior styling of the NA. It sort of put me off it. Exterior styling was okay, very retro, but the interior styling got to me, and I place a lot of emphasis on interiors. Anyway, I digress. I got the NB2. I searched for 2 years before I found a clean one at the right price. I drove many and they were sadly terrible. I got this one, fell in love with it, but then the modifying bug bit me and I had an itch that needed scratching. I bought this vehicle as a bit of an investment, very low mileage, good price, and I wanted to just look after it, and because I was going to be doing such low mileage in it, it would remain a low mileage vehicle when it comes time to sell. And as the prices are going, turns out it hasn't been a bad decision. But because of that, I didn't want to modify this one extensively, and I love modifying cars. And that's when I rescued the NA. And the NA is the one that gets all the modifications thrown at it. Yes, this one is lightly modified. The original wheels were out of round and I replaced it with a set of 15-inch T37 style wheels. I also upgraded the head unit. These are just creature comforts. I still have both the old wheels, they're up in the rafters, and I have the old radio that can go back in this. In a matter of 15 minutes, this car has been returned to bone stock. And I can do that when I sell it. But while I'm living with it, I wanted good rubber, round wheels, and a nice head unit that had Bluetooth in it. So that's what I've done. All of that perfectly reversible. But I've got a couple of products in from Miata. And some of them are for this one. And some of them are for the NA. And we'll get to that in another video. So let's take a look at what I bought and cut the chit chat and get down to installing it. This is what we got. So the order from Miata took quite a while to get here, and then South African Customs just bent us over and went in dry. Not great. What did I get? Well, the top is for the NB. The bottom, that's for the NA, so let's get that out of the way. There we go. And these are now upgrades that I feel, well, should be done. First of all, we've got Frankenstein bolts. Why Frankenstein bolts? Well, the NA has a hard top. And I would love to run that hardtop on the NB, but it's missing the Frankenstein bolts. So some IL Motorsport Frankenstein bolts can go in the rear. Now I know, and I'm going to pick up a lot of flack for this, you're supposed to have side striker plates as well, which I don't have in the NB. The NB doesn't get used that much. It'll be used for short journeys. If I have the hardtop on, it won't be for long distance cruising. I know, the irony of it. But in any case, I want to install Frankenstein bolts at the rear, and then I can run the hardtop on the NB as well. I did paint that white hardtop black, well, at least gunmetal, so that it would match with both the white vehicle and the silver one. There we go, IL Motorsports. These actually originate from Germany, if I'm not mistaken, but in any case, two of those. We need two of those. And then secondly, some Cobalt Delrin door bushes. This is one of those modifications that is, well, largely an upgrade. It really is just taking the vehicle as it is and just making it that little bit better by replacing parts that, well, centered around budget when Mazda was designing and building the MX-5. So, Delrin door bushes, what do? Well, These locate in the cups on the doors, and because it's a convertible, this is one of the only points of contact that you have. These make a massive difference, apparently, in terms of keeping the chassis nice and stiff, improving a bit of steering response, and eliminating some rattles. So I was really keen to do this. I was tempted to put this on the NA just because of its age, and I only got one set, which in hindsight was a terrible idea. And I may do a set of these on the NA, but what I'm going to do in the meantime is I'm going to change this on the NB, get this stiffer, get it rattling less, get it performing just that little bit better. It drives absolutely fantastic. I just want to tweak and improve it ever so slightly. It's like fitting a uprated set of brake pads. It's just a small improvement over the stock items. And then what I'll do is I'll take the newer, less aged door bushings from the NB, and I'll switch those over into the NA as a bit of a band-aid, a bit of a stopgap, until I can get myself another set of Delrin bushings. Sadly, probably not through Miata, because, well, less than ideal experience there. Alright, so that's what we're going to be doing. Let's take a look. I'm going to start out with door bushings, and then, well, Frankie bolts. Those will sort of wrap up at the end. Right, so as simple as, a 10mm socket. We're going to undo the old rubber bushings here. Okay, so clean that up, and let's get the other one sort of, well, we're going to follow the instructions. They do give us some rather nice instructions, and we're going to follow these to the T. It's really not rocket science, but to get them set up properly and aligned properly so that they actually meet up with the cups on the doors, well, that takes a little bit of practice and a little bit of setting, a little bit of tweaking. Okay, so what you also need to do is you need to check that the door bushing is going to fit in the cup, just in case you've damaged the cup. Some of these may get a seat belt buckle caught in there. Now these do need to be snug, and these are rather snug. You can sand them down. It's going to make the door a little more difficult to open and close, but that's fine because this is now a contact point. I like the way that feels. It's firm. It's going to make it a little tricky to close the door, but that's fine because I'm less worried about opening and closing the door than I am about, well, the stiffness of the chassis. Alright, so first up, let's grab some hardware here. We need to get it online and we need to get it into position, so we're just simply going to offer it up, get that orientation right. Now, there are going to be marks here from watermarks and the kind once you've washed the vehicle, and of course dust and dirt, so they're reference marks, and you can start pretty close to where you should be by just using those. And we're going to do exactly that. Let me just finger tighten them in there. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm just going to lift that up. That should still be able to move. And now I'm going to close the door and just allow it to move a little bit. I may need to be a little looser on those. That actually sits pretty snug on there. You see, I want it tight enough that it can move if the door moves it around, but I also want it to stay in place when I open it. I don't want it to flop back down again, because then, well, I'm not going to get the marks that I need. Okay, let's see. I think that should be good. Let's give it a close. Sounds a little different, doesn't it? Okay, I had to use two hands there. But that's nice and tight. I like that. I think that's good. Okay, so now it's in place. Let's tighten it up. Okay, now what I actually need to do is I need to remove one of the bolts. One at a time. Let's do that. Let's add some thread sealant to it. Make sure it doesn't go anywhere once it's bolted in place. Happy days! Nipped it up nice and tight, not overly tight, don't need to torque the thing to hell and gone. And let's try that door again. That's not aligning, let's try that again. One in the bag, now onto the driver's side. There we go, done and dusted. Took all of about 10-15 minutes to get them in and set up, and I think that should be pretty good. I am going to have a tough time if I do need to readjust them, but I can also sand them down if I feel that they are a little bit too tight. So I will take the car out for a drive. It's a little parked in at the moment, but as soon as I drive it, I'll let you know how it feels, what the difference is, and whether it is a noticeable improvement.